The Limestone John Doe, also known as the Huntsville John Doe, identified as Ralph Eric Hucher. This case begins in May of 2008. It was then that a man was found by surveyors in a wooded area near Interstate 565 in Limestone County. This is just west of Huntsville, Alabama. The authorities made a note that he appeared to have had good dental health, which they thought might indicate that he was not a transient. There wasn't a recreation done, and I wasn't finding any photographs. However, a news report from Huntsville, Alabama by WAFF 48 details the evidence found.
Ladder, small spade.
Huntsville police investigator Chris Hines details each piece of evidence from a case dating back to May 6, 2008. Several bags of evidence from the scene: binoculars, a small flashlight, a pocket knife, a pair of prescription glasses, and a dark-colored fleece jacket. There were also bones that were sent off to the forensics lab.
It's believed he went into the woods by himself, and the item he used to take his life, that I can't mention, starts with a G, and was found lying by him on the ground. And there's no belief there was any foul play. I had a terrible time trying to find what company identified this case. However, it appears it was solved by Intermountain Forensics, and while digging around, I found that they are crowdfunding identifications for the 1921 Tulsa Race Riot. I'm going to try to include a link to that in the description below. I had a couple of videos removed by YouTube because of the links that I put below them, and so now I'm a little bit paranoid. So if I say something about a link and it's not there, that's why. We know that Ralph Hutcher was 52 when he went missing from Texas, although it's not clear what city he had been living in. The Vietnam veteran disappeared around 2002, and that was the last time that they spoke to him. He was not found until May of 2008. He was roughly 700 miles from home, or 1,138 kilometers. So sadly, it took all these years for his family to know what happened. If you live in the U.S. and you're feeling hopeless, please dial 988. That is all you need to remember to dial in order to speak to someone close by. These hotlines are located all throughout the U.S., and it will send you to the nearest one. And hopefully in other countries they'll have something like this if there isn't already. Ralph Eric Hucher was missing for 21 years, and he was an unidentified John Doe for 15. Had he lived, he'd be 74 years old today. The Flagler Beach John Doe, identified as Robert Bruce McPhail. Two workers from a local boat company were out doing a test drive on one of their boats on September 10, 1997. It was here that they spotted an alligator swimming in a section of the Intracoastal Waterway near Flagler Beach in northeastern Florida. This was near mile marker 11, close to a local business of Boston Whaler, which was a manufacturing company in the area. It was unusual to see an alligator where it was, which is what made them curious. They could tell something was going on, and so they drove a little bit closer, and it was clear the alligators were eating remains that were in that spot. So the boat company workers quickly drove back and called the police. It became clear that this man had been weighted down and abandoned about 60 feet out, in an area near an undeveloped shoreline. This was pretty close to the business shown here, which at the time was Boston Whaler. They were able to get a few leads that suggested he was a local. These cases are always really hard to work without their name. So in a lot of the cases, it's really hard to try to even figure out who took their life without knowing who they were and what they were doing at the time. So while they tried, it's clear they were hampered by a lack of evidence and, of course, his name. While not mentioned, I imagine evidence was probably compromised by the water also. Thankfully, whoever did this, their plan backfired, and he was found after only about a week of being underwater. When he was examined, it was found that he'd been shot in his head and then with a sharp implement multiple times. Those examining him would determine he was between 30 and 50 and approximately 5'8" and 170 pounds, or 172 centimeters and 77 kilograms. As hard as they tried, nothing came from this. They did do a facial recreation in hopes they could identify him, And this was done by Betty Pat Gatliff of Sculpture Incorporated that same year in 1997. So they definitely tried to find his name. Even after entering him into NamUs, they just hit a brick wall. There weren't any more clues to be followed. All that was really left, unfortunately, was Genetic Genealogy, and this would, in fact, lead to the name Robert Bruce McPhail. He went by his middle name of Bruce. He was 58 years old when he was bound and his life taken. Ironically, Bruce had a love of the water and boats, but not a lot else was known. He was a Canadian from the Winnipeg area of Manitoba, Canada, but it's believed he was living somewhere in South Florida in the U.S. at the time. Bruce doesn't have any close family left. He was identified through a first cousin once removed. Additionally, someone sent photos of Bruce to Detective Scalia, the original detective on the case. Current detectives also found a newspaper account from 1984 that described the brutal attack against Bruce by what's described as a robber who attacked him with his shovel. And this happened in Florida in 1984 prior to his life being taken. That event fractured his cheekbone and his wrist, and it helped with the identification eventually. His last financial transaction happened in 1997. This also helped verify it was in fact Bruce. Detective Scalia was retired, but he never put the case behind him. It always bothered him. He would say it's the one that followed him in his mind over the years. That all the cases weigh heavily on law enforcement, but that case of Bruce was always important to him. He felt a responsibility that didn't go away when he retired. When Bruce's life was taken, he was an only child and both of his parents had passed. And they had actually passed away a couple decades earlier, in the 1970s. So as it stands right now, they need someone to come forward with more information. It's the only way Bruce will have any sort of justice. Bruce McPhail went unidentified for 25 years. Had he lived, he would be 83 years old today. The Melbeta John Doe, identified as Walter Patterson-Black. Family members of 72-year-old Walter Eugene Patterson-Black would report him missing on May 15, 2016. He was last seen days before at a local convenience store. The officers would find his vehicle on May 17th, 2 days after he went missing, at the YMCA parking lot in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. He'd seemingly just disappeared. At some point, the police got a tip he might have walked to the North Platte River on foot, so they did send search parties out and they looked for him in that nearby area. They even eventually used cadaver dogs to try to find his remains. There were also searches by air. They certainly tried, but they couldn't find the 72-year-old man. Then on October 18, 2021, an arm bone was found, which is amazing work on the part of whoever found this bone and reported it. There were no other bones found at all. It was just north of the North Platte River near Melbeta, Nebraska. This was 11 miles or 18 kilometers from where Walter went missing. At the time he went missing, there was a lot of rain in the area and the river was high. Walter Patterson-Black went by the name of Gene. Gene was a missing person for 7 years and a John Doe for 2. Had he lived, he would be 79 years old today. Huge thanks for watching all the way to the end, and a big thanks to all of you who consistently like and comment on the videos. Whether you leave a full comment or an emoji, it makes a huge difference. So if you consistently watch my videos, maybe take a moment to subscribe. It's a huge push toward the videos being suggested to new people. The next goal is 20,000. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care of yourselves and each other.